All right, ladies and gents, welcome to Duet Night Abyss, and welcome to a Psyche guide. This character, I'm not gonna lie, is somewhat complicated in a way that I think could be very interesting for a lot of people, but also very boring for a lot of people. I've had some time to test her at Intron 1, and I feel like in some scenarios she's insanely good, but then in some scenarios she is just a pain to use. So we're gonna get into it. Let me just go over her entire kit, and yeah, let's fly into it. So Psyche is obtained through doing the immersive theater. So she's the only character that is currently available through that. If you go to the theater, the featured repertoire has these, like, I guess all of these stages have stars, but the featured repertoire gives you thoughts for, or not thoughts, sorry, secret letters for Psyche, and the immortal repertoire does the same thing. And all in all, if you go up to, what is it, Act 12 in this current stage, and you complete Act 12, you can get 65, I believe, or 60. You can get 65 of her secret letters, which should be enough to get at least 2 copies of her if you're lucky to get 3 copies. I'm currently still working on Immortal Repertoire, so I am... how far am I into it? I'm 28 out of 30 shards, or what do you call these? Thoughts, to be able to get her Intron 1. But yeah, anyway, enough yapping, let's fly straight into it. So, how does Psyche work? Basically, her entire kit revolves around you flying around and being in your ultimate form. So I'm gonna quickly brief over this skill because it is necessary to talk about it later on. But for now, it's quite simple. You just press the button, you leave behind the thing, press it again, and it'll explode. So that's basically it. But you're not really going to be using this outside of your ult. Now, if you level this thing further, you get 2% resolve. And when I'm done explaining these abilities, I'm gonna also show you what resolve does and why it is important to have on her. Your most important thing is using your ultimate. Your ultimate will put you into a butterfly state, and it will constantly drain sanity if your HP is too low. If your HP is high enough, if it's above 15%, it will actually take away HP instead of taking away your sanity. So when it does that, it also gives you overshields or ultra shields in this game. So basically, you don't lose your tankiness because you still have like an effective health pool because you have your normal shields and your ultra shields, but you are losing HP. And as long as you have that HP above 15%, it'll keep draining your HP. And then when it goes below 15%, it starts using up your sanity. Now, the main thing with Psyche is that you practically never want to be using Sanity in this mode to have the mode active. Because you want to be using your Sanity in your ult to cast your skill. So, ideally, in a solo setting, Psyche is kind of dookie, because if you don't have healing from teammates, you are going to run out of health pretty quickly, and then you're going to dip into Sanity pretty quickly as well. So I'm going to show you in just a second that there are supports who are just tailor-made for her, which you can use in more difficult content to get there. So yeah, this is basically a butterfly mode. In this butterfly mode, you can shoot very quickly, and you can also cast your skill to do some extra damage. Make sure that you have as much HP as you possibly can. Upgrading this, by the way, gives you extra skill damage, which is also very nice to have. When you trigger crit, which with her is very easy to do because you are just constantly doing millions of instances of damage, you gain a random buff, which is either an attack boost, a skill damage boost, or a resolve boost. I honestly wouldn't worry too much about which one you get. You know, it's just extra damage, whether it's this one, or this one, doesn't really matter. Obviously, the numbers are going to be slightly different, but the numbers are going to be so gigantic in amount that you're not going to be able to tell which buff you got. This is quite interesting. When you use your ult, and you have more than 75% HP, so when your HP percentage is no less than 75%, you gain ephemeral do, or ephemeral as do. Okay, I probably should know what that means to be able to pronounce it correctly, but Basically, this means that when you trigger Morale or Resolve, it regards your HP percentage as 1%. And before I go into this one, let me actually quickly show you. Resolve is a stat that makes your damage be higher the lower your percentage is. So what this passive is basically saying is it'll regard your HP as very low, even though you are not very low, which is then going to increase the strength of your resolve by a whole lot because it considers you to be at the lowest HP percentage as you possibly could be. All you gotta know is just it's a huge damage increase, and obviously the more resolve you have, the more passive or the more gain you get from your passive here. You can upgrade this to get increased attack for self and Anemo allies, but I think for now she's going to be the strongest on-fielder for Anemo, so I don't really see why you would upgrade this. If you are really considering for some reason to be using Truffle or Outsider as your main DPS, and you have Psyche as well, then sure, you can upgrade this, but I'm not at that stage just yet. For her weapons, she has her, what I think is her quote-unquote best in slot, and the skin is supposed to look like this, by the way, but I'm using this one. The okay, I'm not even gonna try this weapon right here, and it's obvious that it's tailor-made for her. You get 5% resolve, and when an animal character uses their ultimate ability, so in this case, when you use your ultimate ability, you get another 8% resolve. Your attack speed goes up by 15% for 15 seconds, and each instance of skill damage or ranged weapon damage extends the duration by 0.2 seconds. You will be doing, like I said, so much range damage, like so much DPS, so to speak. Like you'll be hitting quite a lot. So this buff will pretty much just always be up. That being said, if you don't have the weapon because you don't have the blueprint or because it's currently too expensive to craft, because in this game it is just super expensive to craft a weapon, you can also just use the trusty old Wayne Wraith, which, you know, it works on pretty much every character because it gives you skill damage. For ranged weapon, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know what her best in slot is, so I'm just using the X-Crest Duo. But, you know, maybe there is some sort of weapon that would be better to use. I don't have it, so I'm not going to bother with it. I can't imagine that having extra skill damage here is going to be a bad thing to have. For Genimon, I mean, I have honestly just been using the Bro Boxy because I don't think I have the Anemo on-field one. But if you have the Anemo one here, you should probably be using that. I've actually played around with something that heals you as well. Like, for example, this, because obviously the more health you have, the more you're going to be able to use your skill without using sanity. But this healing is just, it's insignificant for now. So, yeah, I don't know. Either use something that's Anemo related or use something that gives you utility, like a Bro Boxy would.
I knew you'd bring me along.
That's that. Let's look at her, I guess let's look at her demon wedges. So basically you want to be looking for as much skill damage and as much Anemo attack as you possibly can. And then also resolve. Resolve is also very nice to have. I'm currently using Whispering Zephyr because it gives me skill damage and it gives me skill damage. I'm using Griffin Squall because it gives me Anemo attack, skill damage, and also some range, which is nice to have. And then I've got a couple of Volitions in here. I think I've got 2, but I probably could be using a tiny bit more. This gives me attack percent and skill damage, which are both stats that you could use. I'm using some Resolve. Probably could be using more of this. If it turns out that 4% Resolve is actually better than 24% skill damage, which honestly it could be, I haven't really tested it yet, then maybe it might be worth running more of these, but I'm not entirely sure. And then I'm using Wings Eternity for now. I wouldn't recommend this as over one of these because you should be getting to a point where you can be healed a lot, but I don't feel like I'm currently at the point yet because I don't have her Intron 1, which I'll also show in just a second. And my supports, well, actually my supports are built, but not max level because my account is not at max level yet. So I'm using this for now just to have a tiny bit of extra sanity, but later on this will be replaced with more damage. And then kind of same thing here. The Typhon's Prime Serenity gives you... it's supposed to be 7 extra on top of 3, but I've noticed that for Psyche, for some reason, and I don't know if this is specific to Anemo characters, but instead of getting 10 extra, like other characters would, I'm only getting 9 extra. I've noticed this for a while now. But yeah, I'm using this because, again, I'm kind of having issues with running out of sanity too quickly or pretty easily. So yeah, I'm using that. Now, what is also very, very important is that you are looking at the demon wedges for your consonance weapons, or your consonance weapon. Basically, when you go into your butterfly form, when you're shooting, that's this. And you can get these mods. Like, you'll have some by default. You'll have the gray versions by default. But if you actually want to get the other ones, probably the quickest way to navigate would be this. Oops, no. The Mystic Maze. Go. And then we'll check out the shop here. When you go to RC Demon Wedges, this is ranged consonants Demon Wedges, you can choose out of these. Now, there's quite a lot of options. So you have Smash Attack, which is completely useless on you. You've got Spike Attack, which is useful on you because your ranged attacks are Spike Attack. Slash Attack is completely useless. Trigger Probability is good, but not on her, so completely useless. Multi-Shot is nice. Attack Speed, you've got crit damage, you've got crit chance, and you've got attack percent. So I'm not going to claim to know what the ideal setup is, but from what I've seen, I am rocking with this. I'm running some Spike Attack instead of regular attack. And my philosophy behind this is that I'm going to get enough sources of just regular attack percent that I think it's smarter to invest in something that isn't going to be buffed by other characters as much, like Spike Attack, for example. Now, I could be wrong about this, but yeah. I'm using some multi-shot to be able to get some extra projectiles going. Obviously, it's going to increase your damage quite a lot because you have so many projectiles already. Using attack speed, and then I'm using crit chance. I think the attack speed maybe could have been replaced with crit damage as well, but I'm not too worried about it. I'm currently running 49 to 200%, which seems pretty nice to have. So yeah, that's basically it for Psyche. Now, I usually don't go over the introns, but I'm quickly going to show you this.
I knew you'd bring me.
It is kind of obvious that she was not made to be a solo character in content if you don't have her first intron. Because as I mentioned earlier, not this, if I go to skills, it's nice that your ultimate drains HP first, and then it takes away your resolve because you, or not resolve, sorry, sanity, because you can have supports in some of the content. And as long as you are being healed, you can infinitely keep this up. But if you're not being healed, you are just going to run out of health, and then you're going to run out of sanity. And if the enemies aren't dying quickly, you'll just be standing there. And like ideally, when you're using Psyche and you're not in your old form, you are useless. You don't do anything. So you basically want 100% uptime on that. And her Intron 1 gives you 10% max HP every time you use your skill. And it also increases your damage by 35%, which is just insane. This basically means that you can use your resolve to heal, which means that you won't be running out of health because you'll be healing yourself, and it's kind of like a back and forth. You're using resolve to use your heal so that you don't have to, no, sorry, you're using your sanity instead of your heal or your health so that you don't have to use your sanity. It sounds stupid, but it's really nice because you can just have way more uptime on your ult, and you can also keep spamming your skill in your ult, which does a massive amount of damage. Now, that being said, in the harder content, you do have the ability to use supports, and she already has two really good supports that are currently in the game. And those two are Truffle and Daphne. Now, I'm going to start with Daphne because Daphne is the simple one. Healing, crit chance. That's kind of the thing. I believe does she? No, I don't think there's anything else. So the healing is nice because you have more uptime on your ultimate, and the crit chance is nice because you get crit chance. Obviously, that's nice. So that's why Daphne is really good as an off-fielder. But Truffle is also very obviously made to be a support for her because she also has healing in her kit. It's not as much as Daphne, but she has healing in her kit. And she also has this passive right here, which increases resolve for self and allies if 2 or more characters on the team share the same element. So even if I were to take Daphne off, I would still have 2 Animo characters because I have Truffle and I have Psyche, which means that I'm getting how much is it? 5% resolve. So yeah, that's just insane. It's very obvious that both of these characters were made for it because everything they do just kind of support what she does. Now, I'm going to show you some immersive theater. And the reason I'm going to take you into immersive theater is because she's currently kind of made to be the immersive theater character. Most of the content in the game is pretty easy to do, but the harder content that is currently in is this. And it is harder to do because of the fact that it has elements locked to it. So I'm still struggling with Act 6, where my current build stands. So I'm just going to take you into Act 5 because, well, I know that I can complete it. So yeah, I'm going to show you. Let me actually kind of switch this around for just a second. See, I'm still using the healing one. I'm going to just put this on. There we go. Save. And let's go. I'll show you what the gameplay loop is, but it's not that difficult. You just press your ult, you hold left click, and you occasionally press your skill. And if you have your Intron, then this is going to do even way more. So yeah, just hold left click, press E. Hold left click, press E. Hold left click, press E. I guess keep holding left click, press E. Keep holding left click, keep holding left click, keep holding left click, keep holding left click, and then occasionally press E. And what I didn't mention is that I should be standing in Daphne's circle when she puts it down. Because that means that I'm going to be receiving healing, which means that I'll stay in my old form a bit longer. Sometimes the AI is kind of buggy and they don't do the skills, but yeah. So like right now... No, I'm getting healed a bit. Okay, so I ran out of health a bit there. I'm actually going to quit out of this because or I guess I'll pause it. I almost ran out of health, and I started using my sanity bar, but then I got healed by either Filbert or by Daphne to the point where my health was then large enough again to start using health instead of my sanity. Yeah, that's literally the whole gameplay loop with her. She's really good in content where she can be healed because she just does an insane amount of damage. But as soon as she's alone, as soon as you don't have her Intron 1, or as soon as the content isn't tailored towards your element, towards Animo, like the next period probably will be, she's going to fall off tremendously. So, tremendously? Is that a word? Tremendously? Yeah, immensely. That's what that is what I was looking for. So yeah, I think she's currently a really good character, but I'm gonna just assume that the next period, when other elements roll around, or when other elements have their increase, she's not going to be as good anymore. I've also seen people say that she's really good for exploration, but I mean, I honestly don't feel like she's that much faster in her old form than you would be if you're like helix jumping, because, you know, this is nice and all, but you're still using your dash attempts. So you could also just be doing this, gaining a bunch of distance. So yeah. Yeah, that's basically it. If there's any questions or anything you would like to tell me, make sure to leave a comment. And I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.